Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to give you guys the pros and cons of educational consultancies. So if you guys don't know what an educational consultancy is, it's essentially a company that helps you study abroad. So if you are someone that, you want to study abroad and you want some help, so you go to this company and you tell them, hey, I'm maybe in 10th or 12th grade, or you tell them, I'm in my bachelor's degree or whatever degree you're in, and then you tell them whatever degree you want to have, which country you want to study in, maybe some universities, which program you're targeting and all of that, right? And then of course you pay them some amount of money and then they help you out with the entire process. So they help you select universities, they help you, write your essays, get your recommendations, build your resume. They help you, with booking the visa slot, any kind of questions you might have. They essentially do all of this. Right? So it's not necessary for you to go to an educational consultancy. I did not, but I know that some of you guys are considering going to some, so I just want to give you guys some pros and cons about any educational consultancy, and then I want to tell you how we do things a little bit differently at our firm. Okay, so here are the pros and cons of educational consultancies. Let's get started with the pros. The first pro is that they help you step by step in your application process. So applying to college is sort of a super long process. There's a lot of different steps involved. And if you are someone that's super busy, maybe with work, or maybe you're just someone that's generally clueless and you struggle with a lot of, complicated things like this, and you want some help, then education consultancies will certainly help you out. They'll make sure that they tell you what to do, step by step, so you don't miss any deadlines, and there's nothing catastrophically wrong with your application, right? So that's the first thing. They help you step by step with your application process, which can get a little bit confusing. The second pro is that they help you with your career, right? So if you are someone who's struggling to figure out what they want to do in life, and they know there's a bunch of different degrees out there, but they don't know which degree is good for them, which careers are good, how much money you can make, and what kind of jobs that lead to, what kind of jobs you can get in different countries with that kind of degree, and so on. Education consultancies, in a lot of cases, these guys will have information about the different careers available, and then you can speak to the counselor, you can ask them about, what are the career options available to me, what should I select. They can give you some tips, and then of course up to you, you can make the final decision, right? So if you are someone who's a little bit lost in your career and you want some help, then of course education consultancies will be great for that. The third thing is that they help you with your documents and shortlisting, right? So these are like basically two most difficult parts of studying abroad, right? The first is your documents, preparing your statement of purpose, letter of recommendation, creating your resume and all that. And it can be really complicated for someone who's completely new, maybe someone who's not so used to creating resumes or writing essays and stuff. These things can be really intimidating, right? And especially when it comes to shortlisting, universities don't really have a lot of information out there about the kind of profiles that they accept into the university. So it can be difficult for you to shortlist universities, again, especially if you're completely new to the field and you don't know what to do at all, right? So education consultancies, they'll look at your profile and then they will give you some ideas about different colleges that you can target, and which colleges might be dream, match, or safety, and they'll help you out with all of that. The final pro is that they're there for support, right? So when you are applying to college, it can be really difficult and you'll face a lot of obstacles, right? And if you are someone that can power through those obstacles, then great. But if you are someone that needs help and you need someone to turn to for support, then education consultancies will be there for you, right? For example, if in your SOP you just can't seem to figure out one particular thing, one way of phrasing stuff, maybe you can ask your counselor and they'll help you out, right? Maybe you created your resume but you're not really sure if it looks professional enough and you want to ask a counselor, the counselor will be there to help. But of course, it's not all positive. There are a couple cons with choosing education consultancies, so let's get to 4 cons. Before I move on to the cons, I just want to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel because we have a ton of graduate program related information coming out every single week. The first con is that they're really expensive. So I don't know about you guys, but I actually did go into an education consultancy and I tried to inquire about prices and stuff. And for me, I found out that it was around 35K to even higher. It goes up to say 50K and stuff. And in Indian rupees, if you're in America, you're paying in US dollars, it might be $1,000 to $1,500. It really depends, right? And for me, that was not an amount that I was comfortable paying with at, just at the start, because, I was salaried and I couldn't afford, something that big without, of course, requesting help from my parents, right? So I don't want to do all that, which is why I sort of stayed away from education consultancies. So they can be really expensive. And of course, because they're not necessary, it's not like a necessary expense that you have to bear, right? It's completely optional. So if you want to do it, you can, but yes, they are not cheap. I do want to point out that there are some free educational consultancies. You know, how these guys make money is, you know, they don't take money from you. They take money from the university that you're accepted into, right? So when you pay fees to that university, that university will pay them a cut, right? So I don't really know about these kind of places. I mean, it's possible that they might have tie-ups with these universities and they might try to push you into that university, but I don't know. All of that is really just hearsay, so I can't really tell you whether it's, you know, kind of suspicious or not. Like, I don't really know, guys. The second con is that in a lot of cases, these educational consultancies will limit how many colleges or countries you can apply to. For example, maybe you pay a certain amount and then they'll tell you, okay, we'll help you with 8 universities in one country, right? Or maybe you want to apply to 2 different countries. They'll be like, okay, fine, we'll help you with 3 universities in one country and 3 universities in another country, right? Which means that you might be limited in terms of how many colleges you can apply to. Now, of course, this doesn't apply to all education consultancies. Some of these guys have these rules, but this, of course, does mean that you can only apply to that many universities. So that might be kind of a bummer depending on, you know, how many universities or countries you are planning to apply to. The third con is that there might be some quality issues, right? So even though an educational consultancy, you know, they have like a lot of reviews or they have like a really fancy website, you don't really know the kind of counselor that you're going to get, right? Because your entire application depends on the kind of counselor that you get, right? So if your counselor is maybe not that strong in the statement of purpose department, your essay might not be that great, right? If your counselor is maybe not that strong in your particular field, maybe your application might not be that great, right? So in a lot of cases, there are quality issues. And of course, if you Google education consultancies, you hear a lot of things about quality problems. So yes, those are there and it might be possible for there to be quality issues. It's just a risk that you have to take. And the last con is that they add a point of failure, right? So what I mean by that is, if you're like a mechanical engineer like me, they teach you that when you build a machine, it needs to have as few as moving parts as possible, right? The more number of moving parts, the more chances for catastrophic failure, which means the entire machine breaks down, right? So similarly, in a similar case, when you're applying to college and you are depending on someone else to help you out for the process and you're entirely dependent on them and you cannot do the application process without them, if they mess up or if they're busy or if they're like not on time, then that leads to catastrophic failure of your application process, right? Versus if you're sort of doing it on your own, then you are the only moving part, so everything is, you know, entirely in your hands, right? You have the entire control. Right. So that is another con. You know, it might be a catastrophic point of failure because if they kind of mess up, then of course your entire application process will also go down the drain. So those are the pros and cons of going to an educational consultancy. So now what I wanted to do is I wanted to tell you how I sort of did my application and how we sort of do things at our firm, right? So when I did my application, I did everything on my own. You know, I had a lot of friends who applied to college already. They were able to help me out a lot. I did a lot of internet research and all that. And now as a firm, what we do is we allow students to learn how to apply to college on their own through our online courses, right? So through our university application bundle, students sort of learn how to write their own statement of purpose, how to shortlist universities, how to build their profile, and of course, if they want some help, we're here to help them out a little bit too through our one-to-one calls, right? So of course, if you're interested in sort of like a midway point between doing it on your own or doing it, you know, with like a counselor, you know, applying with a counselor, then of course, that's what the university application bundle is for. I'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to go check us out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope this is a useful video for you. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll answer them in the comments, okay? See you next time. Bye-bye.